Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Chad Vaughn, and on today's episode, we have Stacey Ervin Jr. Now, I've been fortunate enough to know Stacey for a number of years from the competitive gymnastics world. He was a bit younger than me, but I was able to watch his incredible success at both the University of Michigan and as part of Team USA. He has since transitioned from the competitive gymnastics world into some new areas that are very interesting, one being part of the WWE world. He was a competitive wrestler, a performer with the WWE. We go into what that whole experience was like post-gymnastics and what cut his career short there. And now transitioning to being an influencer, passing on the message of not only great fitness, but also well-being and nutrition and mindset, and all of these great things that he has implemented into his daily life, and now that he passes along to his incredible following. I'm a huge fan of Stacey's. I think he's an incredible person in and outside of the gym. We were lucky enough to have him out at our most recent Power Monkey Camp 17 just a few weeks ago for the first time as one of our coaches and guest athletes. The coaches loved him, the staff loved him, as well as the campers themselves. We're hoping he'll want to come back out again and be a part of our camps in the near future, but we know you're going to love this one, so enjoy our time with Stacey. Well, Stacey, what's up, man? Really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. How you doing?
I'm well, man. Thanks for having me on here. Excited to chat and see what's up.
Absolutely. So, we got to see each other not that long ago. You got a chance to come and hang with us. I've known you for many, many years at this point, but the rest of our Power Monkey crew got to know what an amazing guy you are recently at our Power Monkey Camp 17. How was that experience for you?
It was awesome. It was really, really, so like I said, when I was there, man, you got something special going on there. The energy is amazing. People are getting after it, really like trying to learn something and connect with people and share and grow. So those are the types of environments that I like to find myself in. So I felt right at home.
Yeah. And, you don't really come directly from the CrossFit world. We'll get into kind of your background and how amazing of an athlete you were and currently are. What did you think about testing out new stuff? I know maybe you were exposed to new movements that you had never tried before or things like that. Anything that kind of surprised you in terms of what we had going on there from a training perspective?
I think as far as CrossFit's concerned, something that like was new to me just new to me was technique, like small techniques on things that I've been familiar with, like say rope climbs, right? Like I did a workout at one point where there was a lot of rope climbs involved, and I didn't have any prior real technique for like using legs. In gymnastics we're primarily instructed to like just do the rope climb with just your arms, and naively, I'm thinking like, okay, cool, this workout has rope climbs, I'm gonna just do my best to use my arms, and I'll use my legs when I get fatigued. Terrible strategy to go into when there's that volume of rope climbs. And so like I gassed out, and then, I'm fumbling around with, foot placement on the rope because I don't have a basis for technique. And then once I learned it, I was like, oh yeah, this would definitely make sense as to how I should be climbing these ropes.
Wait, I want to talk about that part a little bit too, because one, Dave Newman, founder of RX Smart Gear, one of our closest family members, he ran a little rope climb seminar for the first time at this camp because he's got a new contraption that's great for people to learn, work on foot locks, and there's a bunch of different varieties. But I think the workout that you're talking about was a little bit of a special one. Who did you do that workout with?
So we were at Rich Froning's barn, and that was a cool experience in and of itself. Guess I didn't really understand the gravity of the situation at the time, and then upon reflection, I'm like, wow, that was extremely cool. Like, what a blessing to like be there and train with him and his team. And we were just getting after it. And I did a scaled version of the workout, and I was like, yo, this is wild to see them going faster and being way more efficient with like so much, like significantly higher reps. And I was just thinking like, dang, this is nuts. And at one point I remember it was probably because it was like a 3-round thing. It was burpees over the bar, rope climbs, and then, you repeat that for the round. You rest while your partner's doing the work. And at one point we finished the second round out, and I was partnered up with Margot and Cam, and I'm sitting on the bench like pretty gassed because like it's not my typical style of training. And what triggered me to really finish the third round strong was like I'm sitting there and Margot's like, bless her heart. She was being sincere. It's not like she was like trying to goad me or anything, but she was like, you don't have to finish this if you don't want. Like, it's okay. And I'm like, me in my mind, I'm like, oh, hell no, that's not okay. Now I got to go hard for the third round. So
yeah, I mean, you didn't realize what you got yourself thrown into there. You're training at like the absolute mecca of the CrossFit world. Froning's Barn is legendary. I took Sadie to her first gymnastics competition, and it was the Olympic Games. And it was like there was no precursor to her understanding what gymnastics is all about. She went to the absolute pinnacle. You did the same thing. Your first CrossFit experience was the absolute pinnacle. So you got to work alongside Froning and see what, the absolute legend in the sport was doing, compete against him. And then you had Margot Alvarez, another multiple time games athlete, basically on your team, basically saying, maybe if this is not up your alley, just sit down a little bit and catch your breath. Yeah, you got thrown into the fire there, man.
Yeah, definitely. And I felt it, baptized in the fire, because I was like, you know what, this is cool because it tested me. And that's, again, like I said earlier, those are the types of environments that I like to be in, is where I'm challenged. And that certainly challenged me both physically and mentally. It's a lot of the times, obviously those are physical tests of strength and endurance, but really it's the mental side of things too, right? Because I could have easily said like, yeah, I didn't really plan to do this workout. I'm gonna just, I did 2 rounds, whatever. I'm gonna just like check out. But like, to me, that would be a very weak-minded thing to do, because it's like, you started something, you got to finish it. Even if it takes you long, if it takes you, a longer time, if everyone else is done, doesn't matter. Like, you started it, you got to finish it. So it was a really cool experience.
Love that mentality, man. Love that mentality. I think both Chad and I are trying to teach our kids the same thing, right? Doesn't matter what you're doing. If you start something, you got to finish it. Alessia, my 5-year-old, just finished a marathon over the course of the last month. She finished it yesterday. And, she ended up doing 27 miles. Dang. But she had COVID during that month. We went to camp. There were a lot of like little ins and outs, but there were days that she didn't want to work out and she didn't want to, but I was like, you said you were going to do this. We're going to raise money for the Red Pandas, and we're going to do this thing. And she ended up finishing it. And I think that's such a great message to be able to say, like, there are going to be a ton of days where you don't want to do this. There are going to be a ton of days when your body doesn't feel right, when you're not feeling up to it. But you know what? Those are the days that you become a better athlete, better person, when you can persevere and push through. So way to live that, man. Way to live that in that workout. And before we get away from camp, great learning experience, great environment kind of thing, but was it fun at all? Anything that kind of stands out in terms of like the most fun part of what the week was all about?
I was helping instruct on rings, doing a bunch of, muscle up technique, swing technique, and really just laying the groundwork for improved strict muscle ups and kipping muscle ups. And I like, obviously the parts of the camp that are intended to be fun were super fun, right? Like having the party, the cornhole costume party, the final night, amazing time. But even just throughout the week, I really just enjoyed the process of the work part of camp, right? Like when we're working technique and we're getting, we're sharing information, because for me, that's always super enjoyable, especially like for the longest time I worked with kids in gymnastics. Like I was the director of a boys gymnastics program. And I find joy in coaching. However, I find it even more enjoyable when you're coaching adults who are seeking that they want to make that correction. Like they're there to improve. And so it's fun to me when we're able to communicate a correction with someone and they're immediately trying to implement it. And then they really get it already. And it's like, wow. So you've had this dormant ability. You just needed the right coaching cue. And so like that part is super fun to me. And just, again, hanging out with everybody in between the workout sessions too. It's just great getting to meet people and hear their stories and learn from them.
I feel the exact same way, man. Chad, I want to get your thoughts on it too, because camp is exhausting for the coaches, and like it's so many hours in the gym. And, we brought this up before, but when the week is over, you need a week to just lay in bed and recover. But I enjoy people's reaction to learning something new, even if it's like a small cue that suddenly like triggers them being able to say that aha moment, that for all of the exhaustion that comes along with teaching as much as we do, I don't want to be anywhere else. Like, I love the fact that we get to do that. And I think, Chad, you're the exact same way, but I'm curious from your perspective too, Chad, like with the exhaustion, are you still happy to be doing this 17 times over and looking forward to the next one's coming up?
Well, I'm still not recovered from the last one. And what's that been? Almost 3 weeks ago now, I think. But and I might still be a little bit hungover. I'm not sure. I haven't really snapped back from that party, but yeah, no, absolutely. Basically the minute that we touch on the grounds, I mean, even though we have a day or two to kind of ease into it before I guess the fireworks start on Monday, well, Sunday night when the campers get there. But from the time I hit that ground to the time that I get home, essentially, because normally I drive, and even if I don't drive, the travel home is rough after that party night. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world. I love it. I think that one of the things that I notice is, as difficult as it is, as hard as it is to get through the week and to do those, multiple hour sessions 7 or 8 times a week, it's gotten easier. I think we've conditioned ourselves a lot to that. So it's definitely gotten easier. But the moments that I live for, really, even though the 2-hour sessions that we have are incredibly special and fun, and an opportunity for me to learn so much as well, it's those times between sessions, those few minutes between the sessions, or at the end of the day when the sessions are over and we have seminars and dinner and campfire and stuff like that. It's those times outside of those sessions that are really the most special, and what I keep coming back for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want more people to hear those kind of things, because for the people that come back and are able to be with us multiple times, the coach and the staff, they get it. But there's only so much of that you can put through on a newsletter or an Instagram post. You kind of have to experience it in person and really get an understanding of what the whole thing's all about. Stacey, your background is vast in the training world. I've known you for so many years now and watch you as an up and coming gymnast coming through the ranks, just kind of going on a tear as a junior gymnast, and then leaving such an incredible mark at the University of Michigan, where you guys won national championships and had, basically a little dynasty going there with some of the top gymnasts in the country. All, when that happens, it's kind of lightning in the bottle when you have yourself and Sam and Adrian and like these guys that were all the top junior gymnasts all transfer into becoming the top senior gymnasts, and all working together to leave an indelible mark on the University of Michigan. And when we were at camp, we had our Olympic roundtable discussion, and you mentioned some things that I thought really resonated well with it. I think the way we think about team. And I just want to get your thoughts on being an individual athlete, what it means to you to actually participate as a team, and in the sport of something like gymnastics or weightlifting, how you view individual accolades versus the success around what a team can do.
Right. Yeah. A shared win is always greater than an individual win in my mind. And that's simply because you've seen the work that everybody's put in. You've seen the intention that's been set. You see how focused people have been, and you know that you've played a larger role within that success, right? Like you have what you've contributed physically, or I guess achievement wise, but and your score, but also just like energetically, that the team chemistry is something special when you have a championship team. Those are not they're not common, right? Because if they were, everybody would be champions, and that's just not the case. It's not how it works. And so what I really appreciate about college gymnastics, or having a team from an individualized sport, is the fact that it gives your performances, it gives your training, it gives your purpose as a team member just more strength and a reinforced vigor in my mind. You have people relying on you to put up a score. You have people relying on you to help support them when they're down. You have the same expectations of them that are reciprocated well in that championship environment. And it's truly something special. And as far as being an individual competitor in that team environment, it's really something that I hold dear, because again, as you're going through junior gymnastics, usually you're not at a club gym that has like a very large boys team that has a lot of strength, right? So I never had that opportunity to have I had my teammates, but it wasn't the same, right? We weren't all the same caliber of gymnasts. And so to get around guys that were better than I was, it helped me push myself to become better than if I was just training on my own. And I think that's, that speaks volumes of just surrounding yourself with the right people.
Mm-hmm. And Chad, we've had discussion before about, I've always viewed gymnastics in that way too. I was actually fortunate enough to be around a really strong boys club program when I was a junior gymnast. And it kind of made me want to compete for a collegiate team and say, like, this is what I think of as gymnastics. It's a team sport. We compete together. My score matters to the team, not to what I'm doing as an individual. That's why it led me to want to do more things as a team with Team USA. But Chad, you're competing in an individual sport as well, but the team component plays less of a role, would you say? Like, I know I've mentioned this to you and asked you this in the past, but do you see any value in the team aspect of weightlifting, or is that just something that doesn't really exist? I mean, it seems like you guys, there is the component of training for spots that you guys get allocated for the Olympic team. So there is a team component there where my performance matters to the allocated spots for us as a team. But has there been any team component to what you've done as an athlete, or do you see there's any benefit in weightlifters kind of training together at all?
Yeah, I'm really still learning more what it means to be a part of the team, to be honest with you, because I've been an individual athlete for so long. And it's in that individual sport, it's always been mostly about the individual for me, at least from the way that I saw things. Now, looking back, I wish I would have looked at it differently. Like Stacey said, if my mindset was such that, I mean, yes, I was competing for Team USA. I was a part of Team USA and a part of USA weightlifting. But if my mindset was, hey, this is more for the team, this is more for Team USA and USA weightlifting than it is for myself, that would have made such a big difference. Because I think the problem with an individual sport, and if you don't, shift your mindset in a certain way, it becomes very easy and routine or common. I'm not sure what the right word is, but it becomes easy to let yourself down, right? And if there's other people there that you have an understanding you're more responsible for, like you need to be there and perform well for them, to represent them, to help get points for the team, and also to help inspire them. Like, that's just not a mindset or a thought that I really had. And it's interesting that we're talking about this right now, because I told you guys on the last recording I was going to be interviewing Coach Mike Gattone on the USA Weightlifting podcast, and Cheryl and I just talked to him yesterday, and it was about the Junior Worlds recap that just went on. And the whole conversation, the recap, was about literally what the team did. There was a mention of maybe one or two names of athletes that were on the team just in passing, but not specifically what they did. We were talking about the statistics of the team as a whole. So the women's team won the Junior World Championships as a team. They won as a team. The men got third. And he's talking about, as a team, we made this many lifts, this many snatches, we made this many clean and jerks, and we did these things that we're gathering as stats, and we're going to back those up and look at them, as a whole, and then individually too, to see where we can tweak things and make things better for the team. And, I had a moment there and here when we're just now talking about this, when I'm realizing how important that is, and why I think USA weightlifting is one of the reasons why USA weightlifting is doing so much better than they have been internationally. Now, there's a big component of drugs, and the drug testing is better and stuff like that, but that's not it. There's more to it than drugs. And a big part of USA weightlifting success is, I think, perhaps the shift in mindset and a better understanding, I think, by the athletes through the leadership of team. So yeah, it's tough to say, because it is an individual sport, like you said, Dave, more individual than gymnastics for sure, when you just look at it from the outside looking in. But if there's a way to, in any individual sport, to incorporate team, I think it's only going to make the individuals perform better.
I think they need to do? They need to incorporate a weightlifting team medal. You guys need to consider doing an Olympic team medal and see how that might impact.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be a kick-ass. Are there any competitions worldwide where there's a team component to, or medals are given for team performance?
So I guess it would just be a team trophy,
Okay.
which I assume they just got at Junior Worlds for the first and the third place that they got. So, I mean, that plays a role, and that's a big thing. And I think another thing that led to me not really seeing that or recognizing that is we were never in a position to come close to winning one of those trophies at that point. But yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
I love it. Well, Stacey, coming back to you now. Career path, you finished your gymnastics career, you stayed involved with the sport, you got a corporate gig for a little while, which we can kind of just gloss over because it's kind of passing in the wind.
Yep.
But I always like to tell people that as a competitive gymnast, when your careers are over, you kind of have a few different career paths that you can pursue. If you want to stay involved with the sport, you can go and open a gym or coach. You can go to the stunt world and become a stunt man like Shane has, my partner with Power Monkey. Or you can go to the circus and become a circus performer, which a lot of our friends have done over the years and continue to perform as a circus performer. You took a slightly different path, and it's a really interesting one. And I think you probably are one of the first male gymnasts, to pursue a career in wrestling in WWE. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating to me. I'm just curious about what that path was like and what led you to be interested in wanting to pursue something like that.
Right. So you're absolutely right. We can gloss over the whole corporate thing. My soul was just dying for like 9 months. I got out of that and I was coaching gymnastics, was an assistant coach. Then I, got promoted to director of the boys program. And all throughout that, I've always had a passion for performance, entertainment. I love doing stuff like on camera. That's sort of why I do the influencer work that I do now, because I'm able to help people, inspire people through movement, also kind of just be like a talent show sort of deal and do some on camera performance stuff. But getting into WWE is again geared towards that entertainment path and being a performer and enjoying that process. So in a way, it's part of the circus. I like to tell people that it essentially is a circus, and what really led me to that was it just seemed like a cool opportunity that not many people had the chance to do. And although I don't do it anymore, what drew me to it was, again, live performance. That is one of the most challenging forms of performance. There's no redos. You can't just be like, all right, hold on. That was wrong. Let's go back. Make sure you hit me in the face again. Like you gotta go. And so I enjoyed the challenge of it because it was really a melding of a lot of things, right? Like the training was very physical. We had, in-ring training. I got to learn some martial arts. I got to learn how to wrestle. We did, our weightlifting stuff. I did my own training on the side, and we did on-camera stuff. So like, cutting promos and learning how to communicate on camera, especially, like wrestling has its own way of communication, but like, it was character development, not just character for the performance of WWE, but really character development for myself, because it was always a tool that I was using. And so even when I was coaching that boys program, I was taking acting classes. So I was already putting forth effort in that path for myself. And not many people know that, but like I was already doing those things because it was an interest of mine, and it's something that I wanted to pursue as a career path and still actively do. And that really lended a hand when I, as far as confidence goes, when I made that transition into WWE, because I went and did there's like a combine sort of thing. It's like a tryout. Went through the tryout, physical portion, was crushing it. I was like, man, okay, you guys, it was tough, but I was like, these are not things that are out of my realm of, capability. So at the end of that, they unofficially offered me the contract right then. So like, they were like, yo, just expect, contract come in the mail, whatever. And they were also really impressed with the on-camera promo stuff too. And that's the more nerve-wracking thing to me, right? Because you're in front at that point, we're standing in front of people, we're on camera. I'm standing in front of like wrestling legends. And again, I'm not the biggest WWE fan, but growing up, everyone's aware of like The Rock, Stone Cold, John Cena, Ric Flair. You see these guys, Undertaker, everybody, Triple H. And then it's like, oh man, like now I'm in this realm, and it's like, yo, shit, Triple H is my boss. Like, dude, this is crazy. And just like standing up and having to deliver, you know, a solid promo in front of them off rip was like pretty cool. And I had that confidence to do it. So it's a fun path. It's just something a little wild, something crazy for me to do.
Yeah, it's interesting that you kind of line it up with the circus, you know what it is, and it is in some ways a performance. And I think, you know, most people look at wrestling as a performance, as a show, but there's a lot of real components too. Like you actually do get hit sometimes, and you actually do fall on your face and, you know, get drilled. And any close calls for you? Anything that kind of like was a little bit not so much a performance and a little bit more real when it comes to some of that wrestling stuff?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few. So like if you think about it, right, like the people that are most prevalently known from wrestling are the bigger dudes who are standing, mainly ground based, you know, fighting style, kicks, punches. They're throwing people, suplexing people. You think of like a Brock Lesnar, someone who's, you're not going to throw that guy unless you're also just a Goliath. So for me, every match that I did, my risk is like significantly higher because I'm a top rope, high flying kind of guy. Like I'm not going to be in the ring with someone who's 6'4" and suplexing them because, you know, they I probably couldn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, so inherently what I was doing had a lot more risk. And there was a match in particular where it was my mistake, but also kind of not my mistake too. Cause earlier in the match, I had gotten drilled in the ribs. It was my first TV match. And so I had gotten, which I was not even technically supposed to be in. I mean, obviously we're talking technically, I guess, you know, in a line that I was supposed to be in because I was in. However, one of the guys was out. It was supposed to be a tag team match. One of the guys from the tag team was out. He was another high flyer dude. So they want to replace him with someone with similar abilities. I was totally not prepared to have a match that day. Not totally. I had my stuff with me, always ready. But he had rolled his ankle or something, and they were like, you know what, he can't do it. So Stacey, you're in. And from the jump, like it just wasn't going very smooth because I was under the impression that like I'd have my walkout music and stuff, and so like his walkout music plays, he goes down to the ring. I'm just like waiting back there, and the director's in the back. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, I'm waiting for my entrance music. He's like, "Oh, they didn't tell you? You're not getting an entrance music today. You gotta go." And so I'm like running out to the ring. Then I'm like, "Oh God, like this is my first TV match, and I'm already starting off on the wrong foot, whatever." But I got drilled in the ribs earlier in the match, and so like I'm already kind of thinking like, "Oh, like I'm injured." Like that was what happened was crazy. But like the rib injury was actually the worst part. So like I got kicked in the ribs and I must have like cracked or separated or something. And so like my mind's already like racing. I'm in front of the live TV audience, cameras are on, whatever, trying to make sure that I'm like comprehending all of this stuff. Mind you, this is only 6 months into me even beginning pro wrestling at all, from like having zero experience to being on TV. And they said that I was the fastest guy from no experience to a television match in NXT history. So that was pretty cool. But later in the match, I wanted to evade him. So like he's going for like a belly to back suplex. So he like gives me a shot off the back, like sends me off the ropes, and he's going to like suplex me. And I'm like, okay, I got to get out of this because like I'm trying to tag my guy in. And so he gets me up, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to evade. I'm going to like flip out of this. I'm going to roll, and I'm going to flip out of this. I'm going to roll away from him, and I'm going to tag my partner in because I got to get out of here. I'm getting my ass kicked. And so as he goes up, I'm starting to like flip myself back, and he's like driving to the mat, and I'm like, oh God, I can't get out of his arms. Shit. And so like I'm literally like directly like up and down, and we hit the mat. And luckily, I'm telling you, Dave, yo, this is literally gymnastics training, reflex. If I didn't have that background, this would not have occurred, because everything else says that I should have just landed directly on my dome. Because we were driving straight down last minute, and I don't remember doing this consciously, but my body turned. So like I hit like my shoulder, and like my head was bent. So like instead of landing directly, getting spiked on my head, I like hit my shoulder, and like it still hurt, whatever, but like very, very close call. Those mats are not soft. And he goes for the pin. But even before he goes for the pin, like the ref is like sliding up to me, like checking on me. And I'm like kind of discombobulated. I'm like, oh, what just happened? And the audience is smart, right? Like the wrestling audience knows wrestling. And so like, if they see something awesome, like if that was like an awesome belly to back, like they would be like cheering, but like they were dead ass quiet, like dead quiet. And so like he went for the pin, I kicked out because I was still good, whatever. And I got up and it's still quiet. Like I'm able to hear the audience and like they're not saying anything. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, yo, am I messed up and I don't even know it? Like, do I have like a bone sticking out of me somewhere and I'm not even aware of it right now? Because I knew that the fall was pretty gnarly. But we finished out the match and, you know, I took the finisher and everything. It was the electric chair. So like I'm up on old boy's shoulders and his partner front flips over me, grabs my neck, freaking essentially like slams me up from like 8 feet up in the air. And like at the end of the match, like the bell rang and I was like, oh my God, get me out of this ring. We go to the back and like the head coach, Matt Bloom and Triple H are like running up to me because everyone's freaking out. It was like the fall looked devastating. It's on YouTube. You could search Stacey Ervin Jr. NXT. It looks pretty gnarly. And the angle isn't even the greatest one. But I get back there and they're like, oh my God, like, are you okay? Like, you look, that could have been bad. Everybody in the back was really freaking out. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm like, my ribs hurt though. And they're like, your ribs?
Yeah.
they thought I was like concussed or something. And I was like, nah, man, my ribs just hurt. He kicked me really good.
Oh my God, man. I actually did watch the video.
Yeah.
And it is gnarly, man. It is no joke. And I can see what you're talking about trying to roll out of it because you like almost turned over fully inverted before he dropped. It was like, it looked like he just got you really high up on his shoulder.
Right.
But the angle looked like you dropped on your head. Like you can't see that you turned your shoulder, man. That it looked brutal. And you popped up and I thought the same thing. I was just like, how is he okay right now? I was like, that is crazy. How is he walking around? And then you got on the top rope and did that back to your stomach. Like this guy's like, he's like Wolverine, man.
Right.
It's impossible to be hurt. It was amazing to watch. I'm so glad it wasn't anything too serious with you, man. But I can see why the WWE career was a short-lived one after going through something like that.
Yeah. It just became one of those things where I was like, what's the risk versus reward? And then I really had to identify for myself, like, dude, why are you doing this? You know what I mean? Like, there are things that, and you won't know, there are things in life where you won't know that it's not what you want until you have it, sort of deal. And you have to identify that though, and like, be real with yourself, because I had a lot of people who were like, dude, that's a dream career. Why would you ever leave that? And I'm like, first of all, you're not the one who's experiencing the day-to-day of it. You don't know what the process entails. You don't know what the results of it will be or what come of it. And ultimately, I was like, I don't think, they would always say, like, if you don't love this, you can't do it. And it's true. It's the same as like if you're doing gymnastics or weightlifting. Like if you don't love it, you don't have a passion for it, then the risk severely outweighs the reward. So I didn't have that passion for it. And so I'm like, I know there's plenty of people who would have that do have this passion. I'm holding a spot that I don't truly even feel that desire to maintain for years and years and years. So like, let me get out. Let me get out before I get hurt and or betray myself. And then that also leads to injury. So, you know, it is what it is.
Absolutely.
Well, one, I got to say to Jordan right now, who's listening in, we've got to show the video of this podcast, because watching Stacey explain or go through that story with his body was pretty entertaining for me. So I loved it. But also I got to ask you to compare CrossFit in WWE a little bit, specifically in regards to your first experience in the tryout with WWE and then being thrown to the wolves going to Rich Froning's gym. One, what was a crazier experience? And two, are either group of athletes more impressive to you?
Each has its own strengths and weaknesses, right? But I would certainly say that being well conditioned for CrossFit would set you up very well for the conditioning of a pro wrestling match, like hands down. A lot of stuff that we were doing even at the tryout was just higher intensity, sort of anaerobic stuff to get you gassed and really test your capacity, right? Because those matches you can get gassed out pretty quickly. Like if you're not able to control your breathing, if you're just not in great physical condition, and that match is, you know, even a 15-minute match, like that's nonstop. You know, it's not like It's not like you're doing a 15-minute match and there's another match going on. Like it's literally just you two as entertainers as pro wrestlers for those 15 minutes. And so it's like all eyes are on you. The action does not really stop, and you have to be well conditioned, right? And similarly in CrossFit, it's like you have to be on go mode. Like you have to go. Even when you need that rest, your rest is still like active. And so both of them have their strengths and abilities that will challenge you. And again, I just think that CrossFit conditioning just would be super beneficial for that type of performance. Yeah.
Did you run across any WWE superstars that did CrossFit? I'm trying to remember I think Seth Rollins maybe does a lot of CrossFit and Olympic lifting, but did you run into any of them training like that?
I didn't at the time. I didn't meet Seth Rollins during my time there, but I know sometimes the main roster folks would come in to the performance center and like they would be doing their type of workouts. Some people doing strict like weightlifting stuff or like powerlifting just to get, you know, that explosive power, because that's an extremely valuable thing, especially when you're talking about suplexing someone who's like 250 plus pounds. But a few other people did do CrossFit. It just seemed like it wasn't the most prevalent training style, right? Because everyone has their own different way of doing things in the ring as well.
Actually, John Cena used to train CrossFit out in the Northeast here at North Shore CrossFit, and there's plenty of videos of him doing that there.
Right. That's sick. And that dude's an athlete, man. That dude can go. Not even just in the capacity way, but like his strength too is insane. Like his powerlifting is dumb good.
I gotta give a little love to Cena too. If you guys have not watched Peacemaker yet, I would highly recommend checking out his new DC comic show. It's freaking hilarious. Maybe not a show for kids, but it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Amazing. So getting to current situation with you, Stacey, you know, going through all those iterations of using, you know, fitness and using your background as a gymnast as a method to not only make a career out of yourself, but now to influence the way that other people are thinking about a fitness lifestyle and thinking about just living a healthier lifestyle. You're now, you know, fully entrenched in this influencer world, and I'm curious. It seems to me like it's not an easy thing to do. You know what I mean? You know, if you watch an influencer set up and take all the things into account that they need to be able to create the amount of content that you're doing, what are some of the challenges that come along with being authentic, but then also trying to create enough content where you're able to keep up with what's necessary?
Right. The challenges of it are, if we examine it, you know, even briefly, it's pretty evident, right? Because no one's, first of all, it's a discipline thing, right? Like no one's telling me what I have to do. No one's ever telling me the direction in which I have to take my content. I've kind of done a bit of everything as far as content is concerned, and I really appreciate that, you know, for the novelty of things to keep people interested, but also show the depth and breadth of what it really means to be fit or well, in my opinion. And so the challenges of it that I have really, that have been struggle points for me, are being able to be consistent with messaging, right? Like you have to be able to find that pillar, know who you're speaking to, knowing your audience, you know, just as like a business, right? Like who's your target, who you're trying to talk to. That was a struggle for me for a while. But even in the sense of like creating the content, you run into waves where you don't really want to pick up the camera and you don't want to do stuff, but you have to anyway. So again, it comes down to that discipline versus motivation, because you're not always going to be motivated to do it. And really understanding trends. Like you have to know, you have to be familiarized with like what is currently happening, what's currently popular, but also being, again, you said it, like authentic to your own voice and like finding styles that work for you. And for a while, I think I tried to do stuff that wasn't, it's not that it was inauthentic, but it was something that didn't necessarily align with me stylistically that I was trying to put out. And then, yeah, it can work for a while, but then you have to really reconcile what it is that you want to put out, what you want to do, and then make that audience, like make your audience, right? Like you wouldn't go to Nike and then be like, oh my God, where the Adidas at? You know, like, I can't believe there's no Adidas here. So it's like similar when you're talking social media, like if that's not your style, if that's not your audience, then like there's going to be that disconnect. So you want to be on top of it and understanding like, okay, they're here for a particular reason. So we have to keep things in that wheelhouse of understanding like, this is who I'm speaking to and this is what I've cultivated. And of course you can pivot and make that change, but then you just have to understand the waves that occur with that too, because there will be some attrition in your following, your engagement, et cetera, et cetera. But remaining authentic, I think, is just the easiest way to go about it as far as how you're expressing yourself. Because when you're not, you feel it. You feel that disconnect. And having that authenticity is essential to building out a social following, a personal brand, because you're not putting on a front. Then there's nothing that, you're not doing something that isn't relating to yourself, that's not, resonating with your core messaging, your values. And it just makes it easier on you, because you're like, whether that's like takes off or not, someone's going to gain some value from it, because I've gained value from it. And I know that this is something that has helped me. So just being educational, entertaining, and empowering are like the three key things of that whole field.
So is that kind of core message? Like, who are you as a person? What's the core message that you're trying to get across? Would you say is it those three things? How would you kind of best encapsulate it?
Yeah, I would best encapsulate it as like complete wellness. I think there's a lot of extremes on social media, and I like to put fun stuff out that's just like gymnastics based things, because it's just entertaining and fun to see. But I think ultimately it's just about being like complete wellness. If you look like you're shredded to the gills and like you're freaking cut up, but you feel terrible like on a daily basis, well then there's probably something we're missing here, right? Like you're not really going to be finding the joy in your life, right? And I think for the most part, people are really seeking that feeling more so than a particular aesthetic, and they may not know that because they're trying to achieve a certain look. And yes, that look can come, but it has to start with how you're feeling. And so like getting to a point of understanding that like that complete wellness should encapsulate your life. Like fitness shouldn't be the only thing that brings you joy. You should be able to have if you examined your life and like fitness was on 100%, but like relationally, financially, life satisfaction wise, everything else is sitting at like a 4 or 5, like then something's off. And so really just trying to communicate things that show people like these are ways that you can find enjoyment in your life, that you can really take control of your mindset, take control of your habits, your routines. And that has really been my core messaging. Like I'll make posts about meditation, journaling, nutrition. All these things play a huge role in someone's complete wellness and fitness. And I don't see it often talked about. So I feel like it's sort of my duty to make sure that that's being, introduced into people's environment. Because otherwise, like, who's going to be talking about, like, how often do you see someone online, unless you're in this like meditation or yoga community, how often is someone going to be like talking to you about that? So I think that even just small messages like that can be impactful for people, and not just think that they can. I know that they have been, because people have, reached out to me about that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It seems like it just comes down to figuring out a balance in life, and how do we just be happy?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to allow us to be happy on a daily basis? And if fitness allows you to be a little happier each day, and having a six-pack adds to that happiness level, but it is about finding a balance, and I appreciate that messaging quite a bit.
Yeah,
we're getting a little bit to the end here, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but we do have a couple of questions that are kind of quick hitters if you're up for some last minute questions.
Speed round, let's get it.
Do we really have to ask the last one there, or the first
Yeah,
one?
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. You've been on a little bit of a streak lately, so I'm hoping.
Well, I did get 100 points for the last one, so I guess
true.
it's fair enough.
True.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what sport or discipline you prefer? And don't let me down here. Weightlifting or gymnastics?
Gymnastics, 100%.
Thank you. There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
He answered that before you even got the question out. So you could have at least entertained me. I thought you were an entertainer, man. You should have entertained me a little
Totally
bit.
unbiased. I'm totally unbiased in that response.
Have you done some of the Olympic lifts before? Did you try snatching, clean and jerking, that kind of stuff?
I've tried it, and the technique was not there. So I was like, you know what? I probably shouldn't continue to do this.
Also, any lifting for you ever while you were training as a gymnast? Barbell work?
Once I was returning, I think the year before, and then like once I was returning from tearing my bicep, I did lift because I was like, I got to come back stronger, which I did. Like even on rings, like my rings strength improved after surgically repairing my bicep, which just seems improbable, but it really did because I was like started to use some weightlifting strategically with gymnastic strength.
I thought you were going to say your rings got better by doing squats. I was like, whoa. I definitely missed the boat.
It's just true. I believe it 100%. You become a better human by squatting more and doing it better for sure. But we got to make sure that Stacey has time to come to the weightlifting stations.
That's true.
Next
yeah,
camp,
true.
so.
I was thinking about that because I wanted to learn some technique just so if nothing else, at least I have the awareness of it, right? And then if I have that knowledge, then the responsibility is kind of mine to do what I can with it.
Well, you know, it's a little bit hard to do that. You know, I think all the coaches want to be able to attend and learn. So what I think the plan is, we've toyed around with it, but what do you guys think about putting on just like a 3 or 4 day coaches only Power Monkey camp where we only go and hang out for a few days and take each other's stations, and we're all teaching, but also learning from each other for a few days. And then we get to have Shane Fest along for those few days as well.
We got to do that. It would be amazing.
All right, we're going to put it on the agenda for all the coaches out there, Power Monkey World. We're going to be putting some on the agenda just for us pretty soon.
I will be skipping Chris's station though. So just so you know, I'm going to have something come up, and I won't be at that one, but yeah, I'll go to all the rest of them.
We all get one skip. We all get one skip. We'll see who gets most skipped out on. So we know that Chris already has a negative one.
I don't know if I want that battle. Everybody will skip out on the squat. Let's don't do that.
Right.
All right. Question number 2. Any guests that you think would be great for us to have on the podcast? Somebody you've come across recently that would be a good interview.
Oh, you guys haven't talked to Margot. I think that'd be a really good one.
We did. We actually had Margot on a little bit before camp to prep for her wine taste and everything, but she's the kind of person that has enough going on where we have a part 2, no problem.
Right. I'm trying to think if there's any other names that come to mind. Oh, I mean, if you could get Sam or Jordan even on here, that'd be great, because they both have a lot of value to add. And Jordan, especially like in the coaching world and just like entrepreneurial space, mindset wise, he's got some really good gems to drop.
All right, we could definitely get that on the agenda. Jordan being assistant coach at Michigan right now, a former teammate of yours back in the day. We'll see if we can get him on. It would be great.
I tell you, all the WWE talk, I think we need to try to get Seth Rollins on, since he's such a fan of CrossFit.
Or Cena.
Either one of them.
Easily done, right? Easily done.
Yeah, no problem. Get him out to camp and have him do a wrestling station. How about that?
Fine. We'll just ask The Rock to come out and just
Done. Easy enough. Any books you've come across here recently that you'd recommend to the listeners?
Multiple, man. I'm looking at a stack of books right now. A couple would be Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. The Way of the Superior Man by David Dita. What else has been a really impactful one lately? Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Those 3, if you read those 3, they're all great. And The Way of the Superior Man is good, not just for, male listeners, but the female listeners also. It's just a really insightful book. But Extreme Ownership, definitely a great one too, because, especially nowadays, I feel like responsibility and blame have, been shifted off of personal quite heavily. Yeah. And it's easy to do so, when you're inundated with a bunch of information on media. So it's like, it's just about taking personal responsibility, even for things that are not necessarily in your control. Like even if you're given a particular task or order and you don't understand it, something that's important to understand is that, you were given that task. So even if you don't understand it now, it's your responsibility to decipher the intent behind it too. Which again, the more responsibility you take for your life, the better things get. Yeah, it's a little bit of a little bit more stressful, but ultimately you'll feel more rewarded, and not being, a blamer, really, it'll strengthen and reinforce your mindset. So that's a really good one.
Nice. Well, speaking of personal responsibility, I know you're a very disciplined individual, and you just rattled off books easily. Is reading a part of your disciplined daily routine?
Yeah, I typically will read in the morning, just to set off my day. A lot of times people, we will roll over, grab their phone, and the first thing they do is like check their phone. I really make a concerted effort to not look at my phone until I've already completed my morning tasks, because you roll over, you grab your phone, there's a notification on there you don't want to see. It's like you're walking into a landmine, a field of landmines. Like, you got to take control of your thought life. And I think the best way to do that is to establish and input something that's beneficial in the morning. And it will really help you like mull over some great thoughts during the day. And again, that's when your mind is most fresh, most impressionable right upon waking up. So it's a really good time to do that. Times when I haven't, it's really funny, even like, days where I have decided, let's just not get the reading done. We'll do it later that day. And I've encountered multiple times. This is not like this happened once. This happened like literally every time where I push things off until the evening. I'll have an experience that day and it may not be favorable. It could be favorable, whatever. And then I'll read later in the evening. And what I'm reading is literally something that would have helped me better handle that situation. And I'm like, okay, how many times you got to do this before you just make it a ritual routine in the morning? So now I've been pretty consistent with doing that in the morning to set the day off.
Man, that's amazing. I'm going to take that to heart and literally stop picking up the phone first thing in the morning. I'm going to try that out for sure. Yeah. I don't know that I'll be reading first thing.
Right.
I got to take my daughter to school and stuff like that. But I mean, it's terrible. Pick up the phone right away and look at it. So yeah, and thank you for that little tidbit.
Absolutely.
Well, man, it was great to meet you at camp. Great to have you on the podcast. Pleasure to get to know you a little bit more. Hopefully we'll be talking to you again. Hopefully we'll see you at camp again and in the weightlifting stations if we can make that happen. But where can folks keep up with you? Do you have anything come up that you want folks to know about? Any parting words?
If people want to stay tuned in with me, you can follow me on social media. I'm pretty active primarily on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. YouTube's more so just like follow the lifestyle kind of thing. I even did a vlog when I was at Power Monkey Camp. So if you guys haven't, you can check that one out too. It's pretty cool. But it's just my name at Stacey Ervin Jr. on all platforms. I'm lucky to have been able to keep that consistent throughout all those. So you can feel free to follow me on there. If people are interested in working with me in their fitness, I've been doing that for 5+ years now. Had a lot of successful transformations from my clients. It is fitness transformations. I don't want people thinking that they're going to be getting gymnastics coaching online from me. That's not what I do. I work with people in their nutrition planning, their workout programming, and just holding them accountable. And that's just at StaceyErvinJrVIP.com. Go through there. We'll set up a consult. We'll have a call, see if that's something that's right for you, and we can go from there. But yeah, that's really all I've got coming up at this time. If anyone's going to be out at First Form Summer Smash, you'll see me out there. But that'll be a cool event. That's the next, I think, big thing on the agenda.
Awesome. Well, to our listeners, be sure to check out what Stacey's got going, and at least check out the YouTube video from Power Monkey. I'm going to go check that out right now, right when we get off here. I'm looking forward to seeing that. But as always, guys, we very much appreciate you listening in. Be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. Also check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Ollie Chad. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your host. I'm Chad Vaughn with Dave Durante. And until next time, guys, thank you all for listening.